In the heart of a dense, shadowy forest, there lay a forgotten cabin, weathered and worn by the years that had passed. It was a place that locals whispered about in hushed tones, warning travelers to avoid it at all costs. The forest itself seemed to shy away from the cabin, its trees standing tall but unwilling to encroach too closely. One chilly autumn evening, as the sun began to set and the sky turned a deep shade of crimson, a group of adventurous friends decided to test their courage and spend a night in the cabin. Armed with flashlights, sleeping bags, and nervous laughter, they made their way through the dense underbrush, their steps muffled by the carpet of fallen leaves. The cabin's windows were shattered, its wooden exterior creaking with each gust of wind. Inside, the air was damp and heavy, carrying an unsettling odor that seemed to cling to everything. Dust-covered furniture stood frozen in time, as if waiting for occupants that would never return. As the night deepened, strange noises began to echo through the cabin. Whispers that seemed to emerge from the very walls themselves, their words indecipherable but their intent malevolent. The friends huddled together, their uneasy glances betraying their growing fear. One by one, their flashlights flickered and died, leaving them in pitch-black darkness. Just as panic began to take hold, a single, flickering candle on an old wooden table caught their attention. Its feeble light cast eerie shadows on the walls, revealing symbols and drawings that seemed to have been etched with a trembling hand. The friends' hearts raced as they realized the symbols matched the whispers they had heard, an otherworldly language that seemed to vibrate in their bones. Outside, the wind howled like a tortured soul, and the cabin itself seemed to groan in response. Suddenly, one of the friends screamed as a chilling hand brushed against her cheek. She scrambled to her feet, but her flashlight remained lifeless. In the flickering candlelight, they saw her face had gone pale, her eyes wide with terror. She pointed to the corner of the room, where a figure, indistinct and shadowy, seemed to materialize from the darkness itself. Frozen in place, the friends watched as the figure slowly moved towards them, its movements disjointed and unnatural. It emitted a low, guttural sound that sent shivers down their spines. As the figure drew closer, the candle's flame wavered wildly, casting distorted shadows that danced across the walls in a macabre ballet. Summoning every ounce of courage, the friends fled the cabin, stumbling over each other in their haste. They sprinted through the forest, guided only by the moonlight filtering through the dense canopy. The forest seemed to resist their escape, the trees clawing at their clothes and the underbrush tangling their feet. Finally, they burst through the tree line and collapsed in a clearing, their breaths ragged and hearts pounding. Looking back, they saw no sign of the cabin, only an empty expanse of trees and darkness. They knew they had escaped whatever malevolent force had dwelled within, but the memory of that night would haunt their dreams for years to come, a reminder that some places, and the secrets they hold, are better left undisturbed in the scary middle of nowhere. In a desolate stretch of land far from civilization, there stood an abandoned, decaying motel. The Motel Lorne Haven, as it was once known, had long been forgotten by the world, its existence buried beneath layers of time and neglect. Its shattered windows and weather-worn sign were a stark testament to the passage of years, and its eerie reputation had kept even the most intrepid explorers at bay. One moonless night, a group of friends on a cross-country road trip found themselves stranded in the wilderness after their car broke down. With no other options, they set out on foot in search of shelter, guided only by the pale glow of their flashlights. After hours of stumbling through the darkness, they stumbled upon the looming silhouette of the Motel Lorne Haven. The sight made them feel uneasy, but with no other choice, they cautiously approached the decaying structure. The air was heavy with a musty, damp odor as they pushed open the creaking door to the lobby. Inside, the dim light of their flashlights revealed faded wallpaper peeling from the walls, and a counter coated in a thick layer of dust. Desperation outweighed their fear, and they decided to explore the motel for a place to rest until morning. Each room they entered told a tale of abandonment, beds with tattered sheets, long-forgotten personal belongings strewn about, and an unsettling atmosphere that seemed to cling to the very air. But it was room 13 that sent a chill through their souls. As they stepped into room 13, their flashlights flickered and sputtered, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. The room was frozen in time, as if someone had abruptly left, leaving behind an air of unfinished business. A journal lay open on the nightstand, its pages filled with the ramblings of a mind that had unraveled into madness. The last entry, dated decades ago, ended with the chilling words, "They watch from the mirrors." In a room covered with mirrors, the friends' fear deepened. As they turned to leave, they saw their reflections shifting and distorting, their own faces contorted into grotesque masks. Panic seized them, and they fled the room, the memory of those twisted reflections etched into their minds. The group decided to huddle together in the lobby, their unease growing as the night wore on. Outside, the wind howled like a chorus of tormented souls, and strange whispers seemed to drift through the corridors, carried by an unseen force. With every passing minute, their fear escalated, and they were haunted by the feeling of being watched. Just as the first faint light of dawn began to filter through the broken windows, they heard a sound that froze their blood, footsteps echoing in the corridor outside. The footsteps were slow and deliberate, drawing closer with each passing second. With hearts pounding, they locked eyes, their fear now mingled with a raw instinct for survival. The footsteps reached the lobby, and in the feeble light, they saw a figure standing in the doorway. Its features were obscured, shrouded in darkness, and its gaze seemed to pierce through their very souls. Without a word, the figure turned and vanished into the depths of the motel, leaving the friends trembling in its wake. As the sun's rays finally illuminated the desolate landscape, they knew they had to leave the Motel Lornhaven behind. With adrenaline fueling their steps, they rushed back into the wilderness, leaving the haunted place far behind them. Though they eventually found help and safety, the memory of that terrifying night in the scary middle of nowhere continued to haunt their dreams, a reminder that some places are best left untouched, and some secrets are better left buried in the shadows. In the heart of a remote desert, where the sand stretched endlessly and the scorching sun beat down mercilessly, there lay a forgotten ghost town named Hollowbrook. Once a thriving mining community, it had been abandoned decades ago, its buildings now weathered by time and swallowed by the shifting sands. One fateful evening, a group of urban explorers set out to uncover the secrets of Hollowbrook. Armed with cameras and a sense of adventure, they ventured into the desolate town, their footsteps echoing against the empty streets. The wind howled, carrying whispers of the town's tragic past. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the skeletal remains of buildings, the group decided to investigate the town's old hotel. Its faded sign swung gently in the breeze, a haunting welcome. Inside, the air was heavy with dust and the scent of decay. Tattered curtains swayed in the wind, casting eerie silhouettes on the walls. Room after room, the explorers encountered remnants of the past, faded photographs, old furniture covered in white sheets. The door creaked open with reluctance, revealing a room with a single, flickering light bulb dangled from the ceiling, casting a sickly yellow glow. In the corner of the room, a battered suitcase lay open, its contents spilled haphazardly. Among the possessions was a diary, its pages filled with the fevered scribblings of a troubled mind. The last entry, dated many years ago, read, "They come at night, whispering secrets in my ears. I can't escape them." As the explorers exchanged uneasy glances, a distant sound echoed through the hotel, a soft, haunting melody that seemed to drift from nowhere and everywhere all at once. Goosebumps prickled their skin, and a feeling of being watched settled over them like a heavy shroud. With a mixture of fear and curiosity, they decided to follow the haunting melody. It led them deeper into the hotel's labyrinthine corridors, the sound growing stronger with each step. They finally reached a room at the end of a dimly lit hallway, its door slightly ajar. Pushing the door open, they found themselves in a grand ballroom. The melody seemed to emanate from an old, dusty gramophone at the center of the room. As they approached, the melody shifted into a discordant tune. Suddenly, figures began to materialize on the dance floor, shadowy couples twirling in a macabre waltz. Their movements were graceful yet disjointed, their laughter a haunting echo. The explorers watched in disbelief as the ghostly dance unfolded before their eyes. Overwhelmed by fear and a sense of intrusion, the explorers fled the ballroom, their footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. Outside, the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over Hollowbrook. As they looked back at the abandoned town, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had awakened something restless and otherworldly. They hurried back to their vehicles, hearts pounding, and drove away from Hollowbrook as fast as they could. Yet, even as they left the desert behind, they knew that the memory of that night, the haunted hotel, the ghostly dance, and the unsettling melody would forever linger in their minds, a reminder of the chilling encounter they had experienced. In the heart of a barren wasteland, where the wind carried the taste of salt and the sky seemed perpetually overcast, there lay an abandoned lighthouse. This lighthouse, known as the Beacon of Despair, had once guided ships through treacherous waters, but it had been deserted for decades, its purpose lost to time. One moonless night, a group of curious souls decided to investigate the Beacon of Despair. Armed with flashlights and a thirst for adventure, they ventured into the eerie landscape, their footprints the only marks on the cracked earth. The lighthouse loomed in the distance like a sentinel of the forgotten past. As they approached, the wind howled with an unsettling intensity, as if warning them to turn back. Ignoring the ominous sign, they pushed open the creaking door and entered the lighthouse. The air was thick with an oppressive dampness, and the walls seemed to whisper secrets long kept hidden. Climbing the spiraling staircase, their footsteps echoed through the hollow chamber. They reached the top, where the light once cast its guiding beam, and gazed out at the endless expanse of darkness. The sea roared in the distance, a relentless symphony that seemed to merge with the wind's mournful wail. As they shone their flashlights around the room, they noticed an old, dusty journal lying on a rickety table. Its pages were yellowed with age, and the ink had faded into obscurity. The journal belonged to the last lighthouse keeper, and its entry spoke of isolation, growing paranoia, and the belief that something unnatural lurked within the Beacon of Despair. A sense of unease settled over the group, but they were determined to unravel the mysteries of the lighthouse. The wind outside intensified, causing the windows to rattle as if protesting their presence. They continued their exploration, discovering a hidden door at the base of the lighthouse. The door led to a damp, dimly lit chamber that seemed to stretch deep underground. Their flashlights revealed rows of rusted shackles, remnants of a dark history that had unfolded in the hidden depths. Symbols and drawings adorned the walls, cryptic markings that spoke of rituals and desperation. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to dance in a sinister rhythm. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the chamber, a soft, mournful whisper. They turned, their flashlights casting trembling beams into the darkness, and saw a figure standing at the far end of the chamber. Its form was indistinct, a shifting silhouette that seemed to flicker like a dying flame. Paralyzed by fear, they watched as the figure slowly approached, each step accompanied by a chorus of whispers that seemed to seep into their very minds. The figure's features remained hidden, obscured by a veil of darkness. Its voice, when it finally spoke, was a haunting murmur that resonated within their souls. "Release me," the figure implored, its voice a lament that echoed through the chamber. "End the suffering." Torn between curiosity and terror, the group fled the underground chamber, their footsteps echoing like a desperate heartbeat. They emerged into the night, their breaths ragged and hearts pounding. As they looked back at the Beacon of Despair, they felt an overwhelming sense of relief to be free of its haunting grip. They left the wasteland behind, haunted by the memory of that eerie encounter. The Beacon of Despair stood as a testament to the unknown terrors that could lie hidden in the middle of nowhere, a place where the line between reality and the supernatural blurred, leaving a lasting mark on those who dared to venture into its depths. In the remote wilderness of a vast and desolate mountain range, there existed a place few had ever seen, the Whispering Valley. This valley was isolated from the world by towering peaks and dense forests, a place where silence reigned and the wind carried secrets that chilled the bones. One chilly autumn evening, a group of friends embarked on a hiking trip through the mountains, seeking the thrill of adventure in the uncharted territory. As they ascended into the rugged terrain, the air grew colder, and the distant howl of a wolf. But their camaraderie and excitement pushed them forward. As night fell, the friends set up camp in a small clearing nestled between ancient trees. They gathered around a crackling fire, sharing stories and laughter under the starlit sky. But as the hours passed, an uneasy tension settled over the campsite. The forest seemed to close in around them, and the whisper of the wind through the leaves took on an unsettling cadence. One of the friends, a seasoned hiker, shared a tale he had heard from the locals, a legend about the Whispering Valley. It was said that the valley was haunted by the spirits of those who had been lost to its depths, their voices carried on the wind as chilling whispers. Skeptical but intrigued, the group dismissed the story as mere superstition. As they settled into their sleeping bags, fatigue eventually overcame their unease, and they drifted into an uneasy sleep. But their slumber was short-lived. In the dead of night, they were jolted awake by a sound that sent terror coursing through their veins, a faint, ghostly whisper that seemed to surround them, echoing from all directions. Frozen in place, they strained their ears, trying to discern the words carried on the wind. The whispers were faint but unmistakable, forming a disjointed chorus of sorrow and longing. The voices seemed to blend and separate, creating an eerie symphony that played with their senses. A sense of dread settled over the group as they realized the voices were growing closer, as if the very air itself was filled with the presence of the lost souls. Panicked, they scrambled to their feet, grabbing their flashlights and huddling together in the pale glow. The forest around them seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, and shadows danced in the corners of their vision. With hearts pounding, they decided to abandon their campsite and flee the Whispering Valley. But as they hurried through the trees, the whispers pursued them, their words impossible to decipher yet haunting in their intensity. The forest seemed to twist and shift, disorienting their senses as they stumbled blindly through the darkness. Just when it felt like they couldn't go on, they burst through the tree line and into the open expanse of a meadow. The voices abruptly ceased, and the air felt lighter, as if the weight of the valley's secrets had lifted. They collapsed in exhaustion, their minds racing with the eerie encounter they had just survived. As the first light of dawn illuminated the horizon, they looked back at the Whispering Valley, its peaks shrouded in mist. The memory of the haunting whispers would forever linger in their minds, a reminder that the middle of nowhere can hold secrets that defy explanation and a kind of fear that lingers long after the echoes of the night have faded away. Thank you again for joining us for another video. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe and comment down below and let us know what you would like to hear in the near future. See you all again soon.